The Golden State Warriors just broke the NBA. As you all know, Jalen Brown has made it publicly known and has requested a trade from the Boston Celtics to come join the Golden State Warriors. And it's now been made public that the Warriors are now pursuing Jalen Brown, and this could honestly break the NBA. In today's video, we're going to be going through 5 reasons why Jalen Brown is perfect for the Golden State Warriors and how he can help them win another NBA championship. So make sure to like this video, and guys, 92% of you are still not subscribed to the channel, so it would mean the world that you can subscribe to the channel, hit that red button down below. The first is that Jalen Brown is an elite scorer. Now, as you all know, Jalen Brown was the second leading scorer in the Boston Celtics roster, just behind Jason Tatum. But he wasn't too far off, because he actually averaged this season 26.6 points, which was fantastic to see. And he also shot 33% from the three-point line and also had an effective field goal percentage for 55%, which is fantastic, especially for a shooting guard. I think Jalen Brown is definitely an elite scorer, especially when it comes to the shooting guard position, and having someone like him in a Golden State Warriors uniform would honestly be fantastic. I think his game style really does suit what the Warriors are trying to do. Jalen Brown can shoot the three ball, but where I think he really does shine is definitely in his inside game. He's able to drive and attack the rim at will, and that is something that this team definitely needs, especially now that Steph Curry is already an elite three-point shooter. Now, on top of all this, I think it is something that the Golden State Warriors need, because if we actually look at the Warriors, they didn't do so well when it came to effective field goal percentage and their percentages when it comes to scoring in general. I think they honestly could be better, because they actually ranked 12th in points, which I think could honestly improve quite a lot. And on top of that, guys, when it came to their 2-point percentages, they were actually ranked 5th, which wasn't too bad. However, you do got to remember that they actually ranked 28th in 2-point attempts. So there's definitely a lot of non-inside scoring that is going on. Yes, they do have a high percentage, but they are taking a low amount of shots compared to every other team in the NBA. And I think that's something that can definitely change if Jalen Brown was in a Warriors uniform. He definitely has that 3-ball shot, which I think is great. Shooting 33.5% from the 3 is fantastic, but his inside game is definitely where he shines. His 2-point percentage is 58% this season, and he actually shot 13 2-point attempts this season as well, which I think is something that is really good to see. Now, what I love most about Jalen Brown's scoring ability is definitely his efficiency from the field, and not just him having a high field goal percentage, but also the way he scores these buckets. He only needs 2 or 3 dribbles to get to the ring or to get an open shot, and that is a player that can really complement someone like Steph Curry. As you all know, Steph Curry can go around screens very, very well, but the ball is a lot in Steph Curry's hands due to the fact that he is the point guard for his team, and he is coming off quite a lot of pick and rolls. So if we imagine a situation where Steph Curry is coming off a pick, finds Jalen Brown can get you a bucket in 2 to 3 dribbles and get you the bucket that you need. And I think that's something that can definitely really help out this Warriors team. A lot of the Warriors players, yes, they are fantastic players and great scorers, but none of them have that ISO in them besides someone like Steph Curry, and they definitely need that second ISO guy. And that's one of the reasons why Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum were able to work so well. Even though they didn't end up making it to the NBA finals, they still did a fantastic job there. So I think adding someone who has a little bit that ISO skill in him in Jalen Brown can definitely help him scoring in multiple ways, and also help his teammates that could potentially be the new Warriors roster. The second is that Jalen Brown is a great defender. Now, I think this comes to a lot of surprise, but Jalen Brown actually can play defense very, very well, and it's something that is a little bit slept on when it comes to his game. If we look at his defensive stats, he actually averaged 6.9 rebounds this season, who was actually ranked 3rd in rebounds. He also averaged 1.1 steal and 0.4 blocks. Now, some things that don't show up the stat sheet is definitely his contest, and he does a fantastic job of containing his man, especially if he's put on an elite player such as LeBron, someone of that nature. And I think it is fantastic to have someone of his defensive caliber in the lineup, and also have him in this Warriors team. As you all know, the Warriors actually struggled quite a lot on defense, because they actually ranked 21st in opponent points allowed, so they were in that bottom 10 of allowing points to the other team, and I think that's something that definitely needs to change. Boston, on the other hand, ranked in the top 10, and having someone like Jalen Brown from a top 10 team join this Warriors roster could definitely help them and boost them into that top 10 category, especially for the Warriors Warriors defense right now. Warriors always used to be a great defensive team, but lately, due to their fast-paced type basketball, it seems to have hindered just a little bit. But I think adding someone like Jalen Brown to that mix can definitely help this team further. Now, Jalen Brown isn't the tallest guy, 6'6", 223 pounds, but I think it's fantastic because we saw with him a whole through a bunch of this season really switch onto bigger guys, whether they're small forwards, shooting guards, or even power forwards, and he did a fantastic job at being able to contain his man. And I think that's what makes him so versatile on defense as well. Golden State Warriors can continue to run that small ball lineup without actually hindering their defense in any way, and having Jalen Brown in that mix could honestly be a recipe for success. Jalen Brown, standing at 6'6", is a very good height. He's very strong and can really hold his own in the paint, which I think is fantastic. And what I think he has more on defense than any other player in that Boston team was definitely his high IQ. Marcus Smart even said himself that he taught Jalen Brown a lot when it comes to defense, and you can definitely see it start to rub off on Brown because he has a very high IQ type defensive strategy that has definitely worked and has gotten so far in that Boston team. But if you brought that over to the Warriors team, especially with players such as Steph, Clay, Andrew Wiggins, all these types of players that really have a fantastic championship experience, but also have that great defensive mindset, it can definitely help this team even go further. I definitely see the Warriors ending up winning a championship if they're in the top 10 when it comes to defense, and that definitely needs to change with new players coming in and helping out this roster even more. And I think Jalen Brown could definitely be where it starts. The third is that Jalen Brown is a young player who has a lot of playoff experience. And I think this is something that is so important, but as you all know, as sad as it is to say, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green are all getting older by the day, and it does seem that their peak years are starting to come to an end. Now, don't get me wrong, they're still definitely, top 10, top 20 type players, but I do believe when it comes to the peak Steph Curry, peak Klay Thompson, and peak Draymond, those days are definitely probably behind us. Steph Curry has probably been the only one that has shown to be getting better as age has gone on, so I definitely give him that. But when it comes to Klay and Draymond, it definitely is a different story. Now, when it comes to Jalen Brown, why this is so important is that Jalen Brown is only 26 years old. He's a very young player, and he can definitely be the next superstar to be in this Warriors team, especially if Steph, Klay, or Draymond continue to kind of diminish when it comes to their efficiency out there, and they need another main scorer. Now, Jalen Brown could definitely be that guy, and I definitely think he has the capability of doing that. On top of that, he definitely has a lot of playoff experience, which is fantastic to see. He has a bit of championship experience as well, not winning an NBA championship, but playing in those, especially ironically against Golden State Warriors. But I do think it is fantastic to add someone like Jalen Brown to a team that already has a lot of playoff experience. If you look at some players that have a good amount of playoff experience or even have won an NBA championship, you have Curry, Thompson, Wiggins, Green, Jordan Poole, Dante DiVincenzo has won an NBA championship before, same with Kevon Looney. The list really does go on and on. GP the second, Andre Iguodala, all these great players. But I do believe when it comes to Jalen Brown and his ability out there on the floor, it can definitely help this Warriors team in a hurry. When it comes to Jalen Brown and what he does fantastic is that his youth and his athleticism will definitely help this team grow. The Warriors are getting older, and it does seem that their athleticism is slowing down. Right now, when it comes to that starting five, Andrew Wiggins is probably the only athletic freak in that lineup, and because of that, it would honestly help to have someone like Jalen Brown now a part of that lineup as well. Jalen Brown definitely deserves a starting position for a team like this. Maybe you need someone like Klay Thompson coming off the bench, but I do believe Jalen Brown, with his youth at 26 years old, still has a lot of years and can definitely finish off those years playing in a Warriors jersey, which I think will help this team tremendously. The fourth is that Jalen Brown is a great playmaker. Now, I think this may come to a lot of people's surprise, but Jalen Brown actually averaged 3.5 assists. Now, it may not sound like a lot, but you do have to remember that he isn't the point guard for this team, and his role in the Boston Celtics was definitely to score. However, I do believe when it comes to Jalen Brown, especially during the season that just passed, he had a couple of games where he was dishing out quite a lot of assists. He had a game against Cleveland where they only lost by 4, but he dropped 9 assists. Another game against Denver in a 19+ win where he had 8 assists, and also another game against Toronto that they won by 6, and he also had 8 assists as well. So he can definitely put on a show on the playmaking side of things, and I think that's something that this Warriors team definitely need. If we look at the team in general, we definitely see that when it comes to what Warriors are after, they're looking for players that can score, defend, and also play make all into one. And I think that's what made them so dangerous over the last couple of years, that every single player on that Warriors team was definitely an all-rounded player, and they can get that out of someone like Jalen Brown. Now, Jalen Brown, although he doesn't get quite a lot of assists when it comes to his averages, the fact that he is able to put on a show in the playmaking department when needed definitely does show that he isn't a selfish player and that he's willing to do anything in order of what it takes to win. And I think that's something that the Warriors are definitely after. The Warriors could definitely use another team player that can also score and also defend, and Jalen Brown can definitely be that guy. What I think he does fantastic as well is that he's able to pass in very smart moments, which I've noticed is what Jalen Brown is able to score. He is a great scorer and he is an elite one at that, and because he attracts so much defense to him, he's able to find the open teammate very easily, as he does attract a lot of double teams or even help defense in the paint. And because of that, it really does open up the floor for other players, such as in this case could be for Clay, could be for Andrew Wiggins, or even Stephen Curry himself. And I think that's what Wiggins has done fantastic so far last season, was that due to the fact that he was more of an inside scorer, he did open up the floor a lot for other players like Steph and Clay, and I think Jalen Brown can definitely add that firepower as well to this team. And I think Jalen Brown is as much as an elite scorer as Andrew Wiggins, and having them both in the same team would honestly be a recipe for success. The fifth is that Golden State Warriors wouldn't have to give up too much in order to get Jalen Brown. Now, like I mentioned before, Jalen Brown did actually made it publicly known the last couple of weeks that he is requesting a trade to the Warriors if possible, and I do think this does give the Warriors a upper hand, because now Boston are desperate to let him go and are willing to accept anyone they can from the Warriors in order to make this trade happen. So I do think it does put Warriors in a good position. Now, it has been rumored all over ESPN and other news articles, and even Golden State Warriors fans themselves, that they are probably considering giving up Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, a couple of draft picks, and maybe even one more player in order to get Jalen Brown. And I think that's quite a lot already. Now, I do believe that it is still a very good trade due to the fact that we get Jalen Brown. Now, it may mean that Klay Thompson may have to come off the bench, and that may cause a lot of controversy, but at the same time, I think getting someone like Jalen Brown for someone that is very cheap, the fact that we don't have to give up too much, is an absolute steal.